live now, just giving you a heads up, everybody. We are just connected onto Facebook and YouTube Live. We're going to start letting everybody into our wonderful event here that we have planned for everybody. We will have people watching us on our Facebook channel, which is facebook.com/Jewish Youth. We will also have people watching us on our live streams straight into YouTube, which is youtube.com/Jewish Youth. And we are going to start letting people into our Zoom. We're super excited about this. Here we go.
Zoom.
Planet. Spitz.
Yeah.
Come on. Yes.
Okay, welcome everybody. And Cole and Mary, you could just chat for a few minutes with everybody while we'll wait a couple minutes to let people in before we officially start.
Sounds good.
Beautiful. Yeah. No, this is this is so exciting. This is really
Awesome.
have some people join in, and we're live too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we'll be watching it live.
Officially live.
You got it.
Live action news.
Never been more live than this.
No.
Okay. Yeah, we got some great content that we're going to be speaking about. Some very, very exciting stuff. Hello to those who just joined. How's everybody doing? So as we go through, everybody's muted right now, but as we go through, if there's any questions, you could kindly write in the chat and we will unmute you. I'll say that again as more people join in as well. Okay, Judy Brown in the building, the famous Judy Brown. Okay.
So we did officially announce that we are starting at 7, but I think that considering Jewish time, we should just give it a couple more minutes, like 2 minutes, and we will get started just 2 minutes. For those of you who are watching us on Zoom, we also are live streaming to Facebook and to YouTube. And we're very excited about this event. We're just gonna get started. We'll give a little grace period, 2 minutes, and we will jump right into it. For those of you who've been following us on social media lately, we've been having lots of fun on Zoom lately. A lot of interesting things to share. We had a great announcement with a great announcement that we had with the government of Canada just recently, and we have some other exciting events coming up, which we'll talk about in our intro. But in the meantime, we're just letting everybody in here, and we are getting ready to start.
Show thumbnail video. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Got it back. According to this 16.
Judy said that she registered 27 guests.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna. Okay, I'm gonna jump in here now, and we are going to get started. I'm going to. We'll continue letting people in as they join. I am Shmuley Nachlas. Many of you know me as Rabbi Shmuley. And looking around, it's really nice to see everybody. Those of you who are used to hearing me talk today, you're not going to hear me talk. You're going to actually hear my dad talk, which is really nice. If he's really good, then maybe we'll. He's in Detroit now. We'll bring him out to teach some of my classes here, and we could do a lot more of this. So it's really exciting. What we're doing today is actually we've never done this before. I don't think my dad has done this before. He's got a really interesting story, his life story. And which I'm not going to tell you about, you're going to hear about. I want to just say that a big thank you to Cole and to Mary, former presidents, former students at JYN. And when I mentioned to them about co-hosting this event, it's not only were they willing and able to take from their time to do that, but they were actually excited about being able to be part of it, as I guess you'll hear from them. So that's really nice. I will just mention that just for the sake of moving along, what we'll do is we'll keep everybody on mute for now. Everybody could feel free to listen. If you have a question, you could post it into the chat, and then Cole and Mary will pick it up best they can at the right time. Probably we'll pick them up at the end, depending on the timing. Okay, and with that, I will be quiet, and I will turn it over to Cole and Mary.
Mary, go ahead. You're on mute with a little intro. Hello? Mute.
I need to unmute her. Hang on a second.
Well, no,
Sorry,
there.
it wouldn't let me go off of mute. But hi, everyone. I'm Mary Stone. Nice to meet you all. I am super excited to be a part of this event and hosting it with Cole. I'm really looking forward to hearing everything that's going to be said tonight, and it's going to be a really great program. As Shmuley mentioned before, this has never been done before, so it's truly an honor to be a part of this experience and to learn from his experience and just to be here together. I see a lot of familiar faces and to faces I don't know. Hi, nice to meet you. I was actually the JYN president in my grade 12 year. I think that was year 2020 to 2021. And 4 years during grade 9 to 12, I was a part of JYN in any and every way I could. It was the best experience of my life, and I really look forward to hearing more and being a part of this program. And I hope you all enjoy it, and I'm really excited to be here.
Very, very nice. And my name's Cole, Cole Resnick. I've been a part of JYN now for 8 years, 8 years running strong. I was an ambassador and then president, and now I'm working in real estate across Toronto and the GTA. So it's, it's been a great journey going through JYN and then, getting into my career and still being able to be involved. One thing I definitely want to mention is that the importance of family. So as you know, Rabbi Shmuley and it's his father, Yisrael, it's so important to keep family tight knit in the Jewish community. And one thing that was huge for me is, myself being a president of JYN and then seeing my younger cousin, Mary, Mary are cousins, seeing my younger cousin, Mary, get to step into that role as well. And have her influence on the Jewish youth of Thornhill and surrounding areas. And no, it's just been awesome. And we're so glad to be hosting this event. And she's truly incredible. And, the experiences that we've gained together through JYN have been awesome. And yeah, we're just super excited to kick this off. And I hope everybody enjoys. We'll be able to unmute if anybody has any questions, just type it into the chat and we'll get to that for sure.
Awesome. Should we get started?
Let's get it going.
Okay. So just to kind of start everything off, Israel, would you like to kind of tell us about your upbringing and some of your background and your history of your childhood?
Absolutely. So let me just make sure can you hear me?
That means yes.
Oh, 1 second. Speaker view. Okay. I hope everybody can hear me. Everybody. So talking, basically, I grew up in a non-religious home in Baltimore, Maryland. We basically very, very, going back into the times of the 50s, of course, when I grew up. And I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. And as a child, most of my time that I spent was mostly out on the sports fields and doing things outside. My springtime was mostly out on, every waning moment was out playing lacrosse. And in where I grew up in that environment, that was really, my whole life, I guess, as a kid, through my high school years was basically at that point in time, I was just, lacrosse was my life. And, I played on a high school team, local high school team. We were state champions And then after I graduated high school, so very interestingly enough, at that point in time, all of my friends, everybody, we grew up in a neighborhood where it wasn't a situation where you asked yourself, am I going to go to college? Am I going to go get a job? What am I going to do with my life? It was at that point in time, it was, what college are you going to go to? Everybody went to college. You're going to go to an Ivy League school. You're going to go to this school. You're going to go to Harvard. You're going to go to Yale. And so basically at that point in time, I decided I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go to University of Maryland, which was a local college. And that's basically, I left, the city of Baltimore, went to College Park and started attending college. Now, actually, in my adolescent years, one of the big things, I guess, very important and was very significant to me in my life was that my father, he grew up in a religious home, and he actually made a choice in his lifetime to be able to. He chose medicine as his way of life, and he went to Johns Hopkins University, and in those years. College was such that when he went to college, Jewish boys, there was a quota as to how many Jewish boys they would even let in. And so it was very, very unusual, first of all, that he got into Johns Hopkins. And then after he got into Johns Hopkins, he also got into Johns Hopkins Medical School, which was even much more unusual. The percentage of students that they allowed to Jewish boys for that to happen was very few and far between. As it turns out that my great uncle, who I was named after, he also was a great doctor, and he also went to Johns Hopkins and Hopkins Medical School. And so my father kind of followed in his footsteps and went into the medical field. And as it turns out, he actually did many things in the medical field. He produced a number of different inventions. One of the things that when I was in college, so in college, the first semester, you have to take health course, and Health 101. So when I took the course, you have to buy the book. You buy the book, you open up to the book, the professor speaking. I open up in the middle of the book, there's a picture of my father. My father developed a machine together with another gentleman, a heart pump machine that actually was in every single ambulance in Baltimore City. And that heart pump machine would revive a person that would have a heart attack in the middle of the heart, while they were getting them to the hospital. They put them on this machine and it would help to revive him. And so this was the type of medicine that my father, in those years, you had specialists that were doing specialties, but they weren't called specialties. He was really a heart specialist, but was really referred to as a general surgeon. And at that point, basically, he was really very much into his medicine, and he felt, as a father does for their children, that the best way of life, just like he has a wonderful way of life, he felt that would be the best thing for me as well. So he actually tried to push me into the direction of going into medicine, and I went to the university. And I was a pre-med student, but mostly I think when I went to university, I took up aerospace because most of the time I was spacing around the whole university. That aeronautics, I guess, in the first couple of years, that's pretty much what I was doing at that point in time. So while in the stop me if I should. You got another question, or I don't know whether I should just continue here.
I actually did have a quick question for you. So you were just mentioning, and honestly, it's kind of crazy that they were involved in all these inventions, like your father and your uncle as well, and your great uncle, as you said. One thing I wanted to ask is, you said that your father did grow up in a religious household. Now, did that trickle on to yourself? Like, were you brought up religious?
No, we actually were not brought up religious. I mean, we were the normal family was you would go to services on Rosh Hashanah, you would go to services on Yom Kippur, and and the family would get together for Passover. That was the extent of the observance that I observed as I was a kid. Most of all lacrosse games were all on Saturdays. I mean, I never kept, actually, I never kept Shabbos until I was about 20 years old. Okay. Basically in a non-religious home. And then you say my father, he actually grew up in a religious home, and his brother and sister and his mother, they were all Shomer Shabbos, but he chose medicine as better. He felt that it was more important to be out and to be able to help to heal someone. That was more important than keeping Shabbos. And that was his objective in life. And he lived a very full life, and he accomplished those objectives. And again, as a parent, the parent wants to try to put onto their children, and their children should see how wonderful the life that they have is, and maybe follow in their footsteps. Interestingly enough, as a child, we really were children that all of the decisions were really made for us by our parents. That was really the environment of growing up in those years. Whereas nowadays, and even still with our own children, you want to try to cultivate the fact of, what are you interested in? What do you like? What are your interests? Where do you want to go? And we really didn't have that choice. I didn't really make those choices when I was younger. And that really led me to the, if you will, the crisis that I got into when I was in college. I got to about the third year in college, and after just having enough fraternity parties and all the partying, I started to take a lot of philosophy courses. And in those philosophy courses, I started to think about, what am I doing with myself? Another year or so, I'm going to graduate. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? What am I going to be? What am I? Who am I? And I guess all the philosophy courses make you start to think about you and your essence. And at that point, I kind of looked at myself and said, I can be whatever I want to be. I can go wherever I want to go. But no matter what, the one thing that is constant, that never changes and will never change, is the fact that I'm Jewish. And I really don't know what that means. What does it really mean to be Jewish? And so at that point in time, that's when I started to, if you will, my soul started to search for the answer, for that answer. And basically that led me to Chabad. We were fortunate enough to have a Chabad rabbi on the college campus where I was going. And I met him and started learning a little bit and doing different things. And that getting involved in Chabad a little bit on the college campus. And that's kind of went from there, as you say, from lacrosse to wine. Basically, like I said, lacrosse was pretty important in my life. And in college, I played on the lacrosse team. And then we actually went to the national championships in the year that I played. And the following year after that, came back, it came to the springtime, and I had gotten involved with Chabad. And I came up with a big dilemma. Do I play lacrosse and all the games are on Shabbos? Or do I not? Or do I start to keep Shabbos?
Yeah. Would you, by chance, expand on the fact that, so you said that your father really wanted you to follow in his footsteps, which was medicine, and those must have been pretty big footsteps to fill, seeing as he made so many great inventions and really had a huge impact on the medical industry in his time being a doctor and a surgeon and a heart specialist. Would you say there was ever a time that you doubted your decision to go the religious route rather than the medical route, knowing that at that time parents kind of made the decisions for you and he really wanted you to go into medicine?
Well, interestingly enough, after getting involved with Chabad, and then getting, from there I went actually when I graduated university, I actually left home and kind of, at that point in time, my father was not really happy with the fact that I was going to Crown Heights. I left to go to Crown Heights for Rosh Hashanah and for Tishrei, and I was planning on going to the yeshiva in Crown Heights. And I mean, if I skip over a little bit, is basically later on down the road after I had gotten married and had a couple of kids. At that point in time, I considered going back to medical school. And I actually applied to a medical school and was accepted to a medical school. I went back to university and took a few extra courses and then applied to medical school. And we were accepted to a medical school in Grenada, which is a British island. And it turns out that there are quite a few lessons that I learned from that whole experience. One was the fact that along the way, when I was considering going back to school, I asked the Rebbe as to whether or not I should consider this. And the Rebbe answered me back that certainly you should consider it if your wife is 100% behind you. And so I asked my wife, is she 100% behind me? And, you know, we were a young, new married couple. And oh, she said, sure, yeah, if that's what you want, sure, you know. Anyway, a little later on down the road, after we were accepted, it turns out that Grenada had a tremendous hurricane at that point in time. And the students were not going to Grenada. They actually changed the medical education to, it was going to be in Washington, D.C. So we also, again, at that point in time, asked the Rebbe about it. And the Rebbe answered me back that if there were two other Orthodox Jews, there were other Orthodox Jews going, then he suggested that it would be a good idea to do it. And so we looked into the fact to see if there were any other students, Orthodox students going, and we could not find any other Orthodox student. There was one other, but the Rebbe answered me back in a plural language that it had to be at least two. And we couldn't find two. And as such, when I was discussing it with my wife kind of answered back that, gee, you know, I really didn't think we should do this anyway. So from the beginning, I guess, you know what I mean? I guess it really was not meant to be. And that's one of the lessons also along the way within these trials and tribulations is the fact that one thing I have been very fortunate with is to be able to see the hand of Hashem in his directing me in where I'm going and how I'm going and how I'm getting there and where I'm supposed to get to. There is no question that basically what happened, kind of jumping around a little bit, I did go to yeshiva. I spent a number of years in yeshiva, and then after that I got married. And after I got married, and actually while I was a student in the yeshiva, one of the things that I was able to do, which was very special, was all the students for their birthdays would go into the Rebbe for a yechidus, this personal audience. And one of the things that, of course, when I left Baltimore, I left kind of not on most wonderful terms because my father certainly he felt that that wasn't, you know, he wasn't real happy with what I was doing with my life. So that being the case, it was a little bit of a rough going for sure, especially at the beginning. And so I asked the Rebbe in the personal meeting that I had with him, I asked him, how could I overcome the strife between my father and I and be able to improve things? Because I wanted to be able to have a good relationship with my father if I could. But I still felt that the right thing to do was to be religious. So the Rebbe answered me back that certainly by fulfilling the mitzvah of kibud av v'em, honoring your father and your mother, you will overcome any obstacles that you will encounter. And that is exactly true. And it's exactly what happened.
Yisrael, I got a quick question for you as well, actually. You know, talking about yeshiva and, you know, the way that I see my upbringing in Judaism, you know, a lot of it has to do with the people that I'm influenced by and, you know, the people who have been there for me since the beginning. And, you know, growing up, I always observed the high holidays and, you know, I always had a lot of Jewish influence in my life. I started putting on tefillin after my bar mitzvah, and the actual, you know, the person that got me my first set of tefillin ended up being Rabbi Shmuley. And Rabbi Shmuley is, you know, to this day and forever will be, you know, my greatest influence for Judaism and learning and being involved and connected. And it's truly incredible. And, you know, we talk about inspiration so much. Now, Rabbi Shmuley brought something up about your yeshiva experience. And that was Rabbi Lipsker. Am I saying that right?
Correct.
And I just wanted to ask you, you know, in terms of your son is my big mentor in all of this and this whole journey. And I just kind of wanted to ask you, you know, how did Rabbi Lipsker, you know, have that influence on you? And while you were in yeshiva, was he a big reason that you stayed, or what made you really want to stay and continue with this journey?
So I must answer you that he is my big mentor also. Rabbi Lipsker, you know, he took what happened is I went to the yeshiva, and actually the yeshiva was just open in 1973. It was just opening up for that was the first semester that they were going to have students. And when I drove out there happened to have been eight boys and myself and another young man. We decided to go there, and we became number 9 and number 10. So it was a very new yeshiva, and he was like a father to us. He became that father figure. I mean, granted, my father was my father, but he was my spiritual father. And there's no question about it. And we learned, I learned in the yeshiva. It was a tremendous experience that I am forever grateful for. Like I said, in college, I was running around not knowing who I was, and I wanted to know who I was and what to do and how to conduct myself. And that's what I went to yeshiva for. And that's what I learned in yeshiva, how to conduct myself. And he was a tremendous influence upon us. And it was great. In those years, there are memories that are just tremendous memories of him, his family, all the boys doing things, you know, together with him, and all the different experiences that we had. It was certainly the best time in my life. Afterwards, he was influential in helping me meet my wife. And then afterwards, we got married. And after we got married, we were fortunate enough actually to live on that same campus in Morristown. And so as we were growing as young married couple, every time we would have questions and not know what to do, not this, not that, Rabbi Lipsker and his wife lived right in the apartment next to us. And we were fortunate enough to be able to ask them questions. And he was just a tremendous influence upon us, and still is a tremendous influence upon us. I mean, you know, his children and our children, we you know, it was just a wonderful thing. And we have a wonderful relationship with all of his children, and they are like family to us. And he is my spiritual father, so to speak, and helped me overcome all of those different trials and tribulations that we had along the way. And basically, after we got married, the Rebbe also asked the Rebbe whether or not I should learn a little bit, or whether I should go out and try to earn a living. And the Rebbe answered me back that if you have a way of supporting yourself, you should try to learn. And if you don't have a way of supporting yourself, you should try to learn half a day and support yourself the other half a day. So he was showing us the importance of the fact of making that foundation of the learning. If we have the learning, then after the learning, then comes, you'll be able to move on and be able to hopefully get to the point where you can you know, earn a living and be able to provide for your family. So I must say that over those years, there were a number of different times, and we always tried to do, as the Rebbe had said, we went back to Baltimore all the time to visit my parents, to be able to show that particular type of respect. I'm sorry, the respect for my parents, that and by doing that, be able to overcome those different trials and tribulations that we had. And certainly later on, after doing that, it got to the point where actually I kind of left off at a point where I was we were going to go to medical school, and actually the medical school thing fell through. And after that, we didn't. So we decided, didn't know what we were going to do, so we moved to Detroit. And that was when, and of course, we see the hand of Hashem kind of moving me from one place to the next place to the next place. We moved to Detroit, and we settled in Detroit. I was able to find a job at a chemical company, which I was able to do well there and become a vice president and an owner of the company. And I must say that certainly as that happened, I think that made my father much more receptive to us and much happier when he was able to see that I was able to be doing something and earning a living to be able to support my family, which was really what he was worried and most concerned about. And once he saw that, I think we with the grandchildren, little by little, we overcame a lot of those trials and tribulations.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, family is the most important thing. And it must have been a really good feeling for you to kind of have that reconciliation with your father and feel as though you were living a life of Judaism that you wanted, and as well making him proud. But just going back a little bit, you've mentioned the Rebbe and Rabbi Lipskar many times, and it's very prominent to me that they were really big influences on you, and they gave you a lot of advice and really helped you through your journey. And it's really amazing to see, because hearing that you didn't grow up in the most religious household, and hearing some of your inspirations, and that you chose to kind of go your own path, and then had your own children, which was one of them being Rabbi Shmuley, who actually got me into Judaism in the first place. My cousin Cole, as you know, he was the president, and he kind of told me, I was in my first year of high school, and I've said this so many times, I truly believe my entire upbringing in my adolescence and coming of age and just becoming the young adult that I am today is really heavily influenced by the classes I took at JYN and just the relationship I built with Rabbi Shmuley. And a lot of the advice that he's given me has really shaped me into who I am, and I passed on to other people and so on and so forth. So I was just wondering if there's any specific advice from either Rabbi Lipskar or the Rebbe themselves that you would like to pass on or share that really specifically stuck with you.
Well, again, those things that took place along the way were basically the fact that we went and we were in the yeshiva and we were from the first group. We were fortunate enough to be, taken care of like a father takes care of his children. As the yeshiva grew and it got to be 50 or 60 boys, I'm sure that they did not have the same type of, relationships with Rabbi Lipskar that we did. I don't think that there was anything specifically that I remember, in yeshiva, that other than the fact that, again, it was a time period that we spent most of the time, the boys that were there, where they were very serious about their learning, because most of them had come from backgrounds that weren't religious, didn't know what they were doing, and it was a very strong learning experience. And with us at that point in time, one of the things that was most important was the idea of starting a family the way that it should be, according to Torah and according to Hasidus. And that was, learning the right things to do and the conduct to be able to get that. That was really Rabbi Lipskar helped us. And, if we say he diapered us all the way through. So then we got to the point where, like I say, we moved to Michigan. And once we got to Michigan, my story kind of again, the one main thing that I think that hopefully that everybody will see was that I started off doing one thing, I went on to another thing, and actually I was fortunate enough to get into a chemical business where I had partners, and I was able to keep Shabbos, and we moved into the community, an Orthodox community. And with that, that I was doing research in developing different types of chemical products, and we were able to be successful in that. The chemical products took off. But interestingly enough, along the way, I had a friend. We were in a community. It was a very small community at that point in time, and the Lubavitch community was that was a time when the Rebbe was still alive, and everybody would run to New York back and forth for many, many occasions. And we tried to as well to get that type of influence when that the Rebbe's influence on our children. Thank God, I think we were successful. And but one of the things that was very, very interesting is the fact that we didn't have kosher wine pretty much in our community, other than the fact. So we had a company that was used to transport people back and forth back between New York and help them go to New York and come back. And they used to bring in the kosher wine, the Chabad wine. So they used to buy it in New York and bring it back so that the community would have it. Well, as it turns out, that gentleman went out of business. And when he went out of business, the winemaker of Kesser Wines, Joseph Zakon, came to me. I happened to see him, and we're friends. And he said to me, he says, I don't have any distribution in Michigan. Why don't you carry my wines in Michigan? And it just so happens that I was in a business where we were in a chemical business. We had a semi-tractor trailer that would travel to New York every 2 weeks. And so we decided, you know what? I'm going to go into the wine business. We applied for a license, and we were granted a license. And then we ended up going and buying kosher wine, Joseph Zakson's wines, and bringing them into our warehouse. And in my spare time, I would deliver them to the people in the community. It really started off as a real kibbutz. This was a little kibbutz along the way, you know what I mean? And that's how I really started. We started off with 4 wines: Kesser Concord, Kesser Niagara, Kesser 770, and Kesser Mellow Red. Four different wines. Anyway, the wine industry actually after that, little by little, grew and had a boom proliferation in 2002, where kosher wines kind of went through the roof, and we added into our portfolio, and we started adding a little wine here, a little wine there. I remember as we would get the new wines in, and I would take one of the wines and I would bring it home for Shabbos, and this is one of the reasons why I think all my children have an appreciation for wine. Is we bring the wine home and we try it on the Shabbos table, and then the kids would go, "Oh, this is terrible. Oh, this is terrible." We got some of these Bordeaux wines from years ago that who knows how good they were when they were making, but and like they say, they've come a long way. Kosher wine has just come a tremendous since that point in time. It's gone gangbusters and through the roof.
Yisrael, I got a quick question for you. Yeah. Just on that note of working. Seeing your journey through work is I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. You come out of school, you kind of not too sure what you want to do. It's honestly not even just the journey of your work. It's the journey of, where you came to Judaism. You don't really know where to go, and you're kind of lost, and you're trying to figure things out. And especially in a day like today, where it's more prevalent than ever, where there's so many different avenues and so many different things to do. Like myself, I was at school for a few years. I kind of figured it wasn't for me. And then I tried to come home and try school there. And, it was a long process trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Now, when you were in yeshiva, you were mentioning that you were living there with your wife at the time, correct?
Yes.
And at that time, were you working while you were in the yeshiva with your wife? And did you have kids at that point as well?
So interestingly enough, again, everybody sees where they're kind of headed. When I was a student, when I started off when I was a student in yeshiva, and one of the things that I did was we opened up a bookstore in the yeshiva, and there used to be the people in the community used to come for a class on every Wednesday night. I used to go to New York and run to New York back and forth and buy books and bring them back, and people open up, we put them in a closet. We would open up the closet and people would come and they would buy books. So I started off selling books in the yeshiva, and really with that was the fact that sales and selling, that is really kind of the thing that I've kind of, I could say is my kind of thing. After I didn't, again, as far as my work goes, my wife worked. She's always been a teacher. She's been, teaching for many, many years. And I actually, after that little bit of time that I was able to sit and learn in yeshiva, I began working for the yeshiva. So I worked for the yeshiva as an administrator. And during that period of time, I learned quite a bit, no question about it, of how to organize, do things, get things done. It was a very good learning experience for me. But again, the lesson that I would say to everyone, the big lesson is to really see what you like, see what you enjoy. I could see, and I mean, it was almost my mother used to say to me, he says, if you give him the Brooklyn Bridge and he'll sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. You know what I mean? It was, for me, really, I was more, business was really the area that I kind of belonged into. So because of my background, I actually went into research and development at a chemical company. But as that I kind of grew in the company, I became an executive of the company, and then I kind of ran the company. So it was more like a business that I was running, and I actually did that, and I was in that business for 25 years. And after that 25-year period, as the way things work is technology was such that technology changed. And the business that we were in really was, as much as we were trying to move and follow the times, the technology was changing so fast that the business was actually going down. And so in the year 2005, I actually left that business. So, and I went and I started looking around and trying to say, well, again, what am I going to do? I tried looking for a job, trying to find a job as an executive in a company. And who wants to hire a 55-year-old man that was earning a salary? I was earning a pretty nice salary. And so I couldn't find anything. So after a number of months of trying a number of different interviews, I actually said to my wife, I said, I'm going to take this wine business and I'm going to turn it into a real business. And her answer to me was, no, you're not. Get a real job. And so interestingly enough, I started going out and selling wine at that point in time. And we have actually from 2005 until now, every single year we've grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. And of course, we continue to do the same things we did when Shmuley was little. We bring home bottles and we taste them, but now the ones that we bring home are a lot different than they were in those years.
I can chime in here and say that first. And I know the ones that you're bringing home are, listen, I've been at Shmuley's on after Shabbos on a Saturday or on a Sunday. I know the bottles that are coming in. So you definitely did some great stuff there. And, on that note, you look back all these years, right? You created this incredible flourishing wine business, coming from working in research and development at a chemical plant. Then before that, being in yeshiva, and, through all this time, the one thing that's, left that's I've had a question about is, your father, right? I keep kind of circling back to that in my head just because, I'm so blessed in my life to have such a close relationship with my father. And I truly am very, very blessed to have the relationship that I do. And I wanted to ask you, like looking back and seeing where you are now and the success that you've had, and not only this is the success, but the success you've had going your own way, just looking back on that, how did you manage all this stress that you had, trying to make the decision and still please your father and stay in touch with him and, going through all those things? I'd love to know. I've just kind of been circling through that this whole time.
So one of the things actually that we ended up doing, and this goes back to the year 2002, actually, and why do I know that? Because that was the year that the Olympics were in Utah. And my father was an avid skier. He skied until he was 86 years old. And he was an avid skier. And when I was growing up, every weekend we would ski, we would go skiing. And I became a pretty proficient skier myself. Certainly during the years of having children and whatnot, we were not really too able to do too much skiing. But in 2002, every year my father would go take a trip out to Utah, and I started bringing my kids, and we all started going on a family event out in Utah, a skiing event. And we would go to Utah, myself, my boys, and ski together with my brothers and my father and my mother. And it was just, I'll tell you, that was really just a wonderful, wonderful thing, wonderful experience. And the kids, it was great. And it helped me really overcome that really overcame a lot of the animosity that may have come earlier and it really helped along the way. And we had a wonderful relationship with my father after that. And family was always very, very important. It was important to him. It was important to us. And like I said, the one thing that was in those years was the fact that why did he want me to try to go into medicine? Because he knew how great medicine was. For him, it was the most perfect thing. But for me, it wasn't. And when one realizes that you have to try and take your children and develop them into the things that they like to do. I mean, I could have told Shmuley that, hey, you belong in some other, you do this or do that or do that. But Shmuley, you can see the way that he is and the relationship that he has with the students and how successful he is and all the different, that's what his innate nature. And so we all have our own innate natures, and we all have to try to search out that nature and figure out what that nature is, and then go forward in that nature. And I want you to know that I do believe that no matter where you'll go in that nature, if you're doing what you're happy and success, you will be successful. And you'll be successful to the point that you'll be able to earning a living is one of the things that certainly we have learned that Parnassa, comes from above. And therefore, there's no question that you will be able to be successful and be able to take care of your family, because if you're doing the Torah and the mitzvahs and doing what you're supposed to be doing and making the proper vessel to be able to receive God's blessing, God's blessings will come inside. There's no question about it. And that's what I was saying as along the way, through the trials and the tribulations that I've had along the way, one of the things that we've seen is the fact that every step of the way, God was leading me in that path. Who would have thought in 1988, when we opened up a little bit of a sideline of wine business, that in 2005, we're going to go out of the other business and we're going to go into the wine business. And that's going to be my way of life, for which it has been for the last 15 years, and been able to earn a living and enjoy earning a living. It's a wonderful business. It's a fun business, and I love doing it. And when you're doing something that you love, like I say, wine, it's when we, like you say, you've gone to Shmuley's and the wine, great wine here. And for us to be successful was very easy, because when it's easy to sell good wine. And that's what we've been doing for a number of years. And we've been selling good wine, and it's been successful, and it's easy, and we're happy doing it. And it's been a great thing. And like I say, who would have thought in 1988 that that's what Hashem was planning for me later on in life, that that's what I should end up doing. But you see that God leads you on the path down the road. And as long as you hopefully do what you're supposed to do, that you won't go off the path the wrong way. You'll get to where you're supposed to be.
Israel, something that I need to tell the people that are watching right now, because this whole story is just, it's honestly incredible. Like, we're talking a star lacrosse player, then finds his Jewish identity and connects to God and goes into the wine business and just all these amazing things. Shmuley told me something last night. We were having a conversation last night, which I hadn't known at that point. I think Shmuley just shared a picture. Is that the lacrosse photo?
Yeah, that's a lacrosse team.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's the team. 1971 University of Maryland lacrosse team.
What number were you?
Can't you pick me out in the front row? The shortest one there.
I honestly, I was gonna say something, but hey, come on.
The smallest one on the team.
Rabbi Shmuley mentioned that you actually won them the championship.
Well, we actually played in the semifinals, and I scored the 2 winning goals in the semifinals to get us to the finals.
Oh
So
my.
it was
Wow.
it was a pretty significant game.
So we're talking a real superstar, but
Oh yeah.
to tie it back, with everything that's gone on, you now look at your family, right? And who knows where, Shmuley told me 9 siblings, or Shmuley has 8 siblings, 9 kids, correct?
Correct.
And I guess between kids and grandkids, we're talking over 50.
Close to it.
So we're doing some numbers here. I guess is that you meeting the Rebbe?
That's receiving $1 from the Rebbe, and if you take a look in the Shmuley is the one that's just below my, my hand. Shmuley is right there with me. That is Shmuley. That is Shmuley when he's about probably 4 or 5.
It's so funny. You even blocking his face, I can still tell it's Shmuley. But no, that's incredible. And one thing that I've learned, and this is so funny because 4 years removed from high school, probably 6 years removed from this class, something I learned at JYN, which is something I still carry with me today, and I explained to other people, was Shmuley taught us about the 7 wonders of the Jewish world. So you got your 7 wonders of the world, which is honestly, I couldn't even tell you what the regular ones are. I can only tell you what the 7 wonders of the Jewish world are, and that goes to show you how much I love these classes. One of them was disbursement. The fact that no matter how few Jews there are in the world, we're all over, and we remain with such a strong presence. And the fact that you have 9 children, and Shmuley was telling me there's one of your daughters in Argentina, I believe, or yeah, South America, and in the States and in Canada, and to truly comprehend the fact that not only did you not grow up religious, in your earlier years, but you found your Jewish identity. You had this beautiful, amazing family. Now you have 9 children, some of which are spread across the globe, and they're all having their own influence where they are as well. And then you look at Rabbi Shmuley, who, the countless thousands of youth that he has had an impact on. And when I say thousands, it's really not a stretch. This
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, seriously, no. And you know what? We're not even talking strictly direct, right? You see the programs that he runs online. You see the programs that he runs for us that we end up sharing with our friends. And there are so many people who've had this impact. And it's truly incredible. We look now, it's 2021, we were talking the 50s, the 60s, and all of these years that pass. What can you tell us about some of the values after seeing this beautiful family flourishing and great children and amazing grandchildren and just an army, a true army? What are some values?
This is really, if we look at this is really the vision of the Rebbe. When we connected to Chabad, what was our intention? Our intention was to grow a family, to be able to have a family, and that the family should be connected to Chabad and Lubavitch, and that we sent them off to school to give them hopefully the proper educations that they needed to be able to do whatever they will need, in life. And then each of them, found, thank God they each found their spouses, and they're each going their own way. But the Rebbe, actually, that was his vision. The Rebbe's vision was the fact that by impacting me, and then I having children and my children impacting, this is the way that we really impact the Jewish nation, the Jewish world. This is the way the impact, and it is having a tremendous impact. You see all the, the people that Shmuley is affecting. And I have a son-in-law. My daughter's married in Argentina, and he's on shlichus there, and he's doing similar shlichus with families there, and so on and so forth. And the impact that our children will have, and no matter what they're doing in whatever field, that was the lesson that I tried to impose upon them, that you are a representative of the Rebbe no matter where you are. Even though I am not an official shliach, but nevertheless, I am an example of what a person should do. And by my being a good example and going out into the world and doing what I'm supposed to be doing, hopefully that's having an impact. And again, well, I didn't really touch on it, but in one of the yechiduses that I had with the Rebbe, he mentioned that. He mentioned the fact that what should, in other words, what should an individual do? An individual should try to be a good example. By you being a good example to others, then you will be successful also in all that you do. So the idea is that if we take the Rebbe's teachings and the Rebbe's he taught us, and that's how we're spreading out and conquering the world. The Jewish nation is going to conquer the world by having families and having children, and the children going out and affecting people. When I walk down the street, just because I have a yarmulke on, you never can tell the impact that you have. And someone sees, when they see your tzitzis, you don't know. When I'm out in the business world and I go to somebody and I have my tzitzis hanging out, you never can tell the impact that it will have later on with someone, and cause him to do something, another mitzvah, bring him back to Torah. And there are many, many, many thousands and thousands of stories of such.
Absolutely. And just, first of all, I want to wish you a mazel tov and all that you've accomplished in your life and your beautiful family. I've had the pleasure of meeting some of it, and I hope one day to meet more of your family. It's a beautiful family, and just hearing the story of your life, it's truly inspirational. So mazel tov, and thank you for sharing this all with us. Just to touch a little bit on your personal life, and I heard you mention on the ski trips that you went on, you went with your siblings as well. Just speaking from personal experience, I'm really close to my siblings, and I'm lucky enough to have like the most supportive family ever, and they've really helped get me into Judaism as well, and just support me through my journey to self-discovery as a Jewish youth and just a young woman in general. So I was wondering if growing up, you choosing to go into Judaism and a more religious path, if your siblings were kind of on board with that, they're supportive, and if you stayed close to them, or if they more so followed the route that your father had hoped for all of you.
Well, interestingly enough, again, my siblings, none of them are religious, but we are all very close. I mean, we grew up as a very close family, and when we go on our ski trip, we ski the family a bunch of which we've continued to do, by the way, even though after my father passed away, we continue to go on an annual ski trip to Utah, and my brother and his wife come, and his children sometimes come, and another brother and his wife, we skied with them a number of years, and of course my Shmuley, Rabbi Shmuley, and Avremel have been there, and other son-in-laws and whatnot have also, we've all joined, and we try to make an annual yearly trip together and make it at a time when whoever can come. So we stay connected in that respect, and we enjoy it, and it's just a wonderful family time. We've also had within our own family, I must admit that when my wife and I were married 40 years, we had a family reunion, and everyone came in and spent about 4 or 5 days in upstate New York in a place. And it was a very, very special memory. And there's no question that family is very, very important. And even though we have 9 children and they're spread all over the place, we still get a chance to thank goodness for WhatsApp, and thank goodness for all the Zooms and things that we're able to keep in touch, and everybody stays in touch, and everybody is very, very close. And now we see the next generation. As it turns out, I have a grandson that's getting ready to get married, and his brother actually is on shlichus. So my daughter, who is on shlichus in Muncie, her son is now on shlichus in I'm trying to think of the city. In Arizona, right? In Arizona, and I tell you, we are very, very proud of all of our children. Not only Shmuley, but all of our children. Each one has chosen a path and they're very, very happy and successful in what they're doing, and we're very, very happy for them.
Amazing. What more could you truly wish for your children? I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your story with us and for being here. And it was just an absolute pleasure and privilege to hear you speak and hear about your life. I'm now going to open up the floor to Shmuley, and if anybody else has questions in the chat, we can unmute you and you can feel free to ask them. But it has been an absolute pleasure meeting you and speaking with you tonight and hearing the story of your life, truly. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna just wrap it up first of all with a thank you to Mary and Cole. We're just gonna, before we finish, I'll just share with you, since I was quiet the whole time. There, I'll just pin myself in here. There we go. I'm joining the club. I'll just share with you actually a quick lesson that I remember when I got married that my father mentioned to me. I don't know if he remembers now, but he did, and it stuck with me, and I think it's a nice way to finish, something nice to share. As you're going out to start and you don't know what you're going to be doing and what business or work or however you're going to impact the world for the better, God willing. So one of the things I remember, Ty, you telling me was always remember to surround yourself with honest and good people. So, when whatever it is that you're doing, when you're surrounded by honest and good people, whether you're doing business with them, whether you're teaching, whatever field you're in, makes all the difference. And I could say that that's something that I always kept a keen eye for. And anybody who knows what's going on, in Toronto and in JYN, organizationally, could say we are so lucky. Besides everything that's going on and besides all the wonderful activities and all that, but the people who are attracted to the circle of JYN are really, there's a core of honesty and goodwill and good people. And that has been our blessing since the day we started. So it's an advice I got from you, Ty, and it's
There's
certainly
one more
done
piece
me well.
One more piece of advice I can tell you, and that is your mother always says, when you do the right thing, you can never be wrong.
There you go. All right, I think we'll wrap it up with what Mother says, because Mother's always right. Well, thank you everybody for joining with us. I hope everybody enjoyed and learned something to take away to their own personal life. And may Hashem bless everybody, each in their own way, to have healthy families, healthy dynamic, and whatever challenges that we have, Hashem should guide us. And like the Rebbe told my father, that through honoring our parents and respect, we could overcome and everything could be good. So with that, we'll wrap it up and wish everybody a wonderful night. Stay healthy, and we hope to see you back soon. Thank you, Cole and Mary.
Thank you guys, and thank you everybody
so much.
for joining me. Thank you, Israel, and hope everybody has a great night. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.